Is your child struggling with reading, writing, or spelling?
Do you suspect they might have dyslexia?
At Hill Country Dyslexia Services, our team of experienced educational diagnosticians are here to help.
We offer a thorough evaluation process at HCDS to help you identify your child's needs.
Call us today at 512-648-2291 to schedule an appointment and take the first step towards supporting your child's learning journey. Hi, this is Amy
And Melissa. We are a couple of retired Texas teachers who are CALTs, Certified Academic Language Therapists. We started our own businesses, and now we have a podcast called
The Dyslexia Duo. So join us for our informative podcast where we'll delve into dyslexia, covering the topics that affect parents, therapists, teachers, practitioners, and anyone who wants to learn more. We'll guide you through everything you need to know, from the first signs to the intricacies of dyslexia curriculum placement and beyond.
This season, we will cover the referral process, what to expect when your child or student is dyslexic, the generational impacts of dyslexia, and how to support those affected.
Come join us. Let's resume our conversation with the insights of Kareem Weaver. So I was wondering, because I remember hearing a report that, you talked about the prison pipeline, that now they're starting to give prisoners reading screeners to detect for possible dyslexia. What do they do with those screeners after that? Are they providing remediation and life skills after that? Okay.
This is the first Trump administration. He signed the First Step Act. And that came from Senator Cassidy down in Louisiana.
Yes.
It was advocated for by, Kanye West, Kim Kardashian, all these folks that people might laugh at. But guess what? For whatever reason, criminal justice reform, this was part of it. They advocated for that. And then Senator Cassidy from Louisiana, his wife's a teacher, I believe, or Laura Cassidy, they opened up a school, the Key Academy in Louisiana. But they've got a dyslexic daughter. And so they put this in that bill, Senator Cassidy did, that says, if you're in the federal penitentiary, we're going to screen you for risk of dyslexia when you come in, and then give you the help to get a GED or like an equivalency to a high school, and give you the help to get that. Now, that is now law, and people can argue about the amount of money they allocated for it or whatever, but it is a huge, huge piece. So I've actually, this is so bad. I've actually had engagements with young people who are, let's just say, high risk. And they have been involved with the justice system, and what I told them was, how ignorant are you that you would do something high risk and go to prison in a state penitentiary? I said, at least be smart enough to know the difference between a state crime and a federal crime. Because if you commit something that's if you catch a federal case, at least they'll screen you for dyslexia and you can get help to get a high school diploma or a GED. But if you go, I actually there were guys crying because they're like, how ridiculous is it? You're going to risk your life, liberty, and freedom, and you're going to come out just as ignorant as you were when you went in there. They were stunned. Like, I am brutally honest. Like, listen, I don't want you to commit any crime. To be clear, I don't want you to commit any crime. But my God, you're in San Quentin. You're going to San Quentin, which is a state penitentiary out here. Like, I'm so grateful that law was written and passed. Bipartisan. Thank you, Senator Cassidy down in Louisiana, for making this a real issue. I vote on issues like this. Like, I understand the politics and the theater and all that. I want to know who's helping our kids. This is what I'm concerned about. So right now, I have a nephew who benefited from that law.
Oh, wow.
Did not know they were dyslexic. Like you say, it runs in families.
Yeah.
But we didn't know at the time what was going on. It was just, my brother just thought that, I don't know, the kid, it was bad. I don't know what he thought, but went to jail or went to prison, was screened, just found out they're dyslexic, and now got an AA because went to community college afterwards, and actually was managing hotels for a while, like the manager, managing staff, like doing very, very well, very well, but thought that, and I did a little recording with him just thought that something was wrong with him.
Yeah.
A lot of our kids who are dyslexic, they don't realize they have a problem. They think they are a problem. They
Right.
think something's wrong with them, that they're broken. And so then they start acting out in different ways, not realizing, no, man, you just got this processing difference, and we work on this and work on that, and you're going to be all right. Matter of fact, that could be an asset, how you handle this, but they don't get that far oftentimes. They get chewed up by the machine. So yeah, that first step act, thank God for that. Hopefully there's a second step and a third step, but the first step was, we're going to screen these kids, young people, or you get incarcerated in the federal penitentiary, we're going to screen you and then get you the help to get a GED so that you can actually make a transition in your life to be a constructive, productive member of society.
So if you could write a second act or a third act to go with that, third step with that, what would you suggest?
Oh my goodness. And you give me the keys of the kingdom.
I am.
Well, first of all, I would say we can't have a wait to fail model.
Right.
So the first act is in the penitentiary. The second act really should be the first one, which is you have to cut it at the root. Kids should be screened for dyslexia, K1, 2. K1, 2, all of them get screened, and the help to get what they need. So that means that universities are making sure that their teachers understand the science reading and have proven the skill to apply it. I don't really care how much theory you know. I need to know that when you have a roster of children, that you can actually do the thing. You can actually apply the skills that you've learned. That should be part of getting a license. That would be the first part of it. And I'm going to make sure that you're paid accordingly, because that's a skill that is high value to society, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's to be the first thing. The next thing is you got to make sure that every child, the materials that they're using have been proven to work for the greatest number of children. That means there should be some randomly controlled trials. There should be, state-sponsored studies. Those things cost millions of dollars. Publishers don't do that because, one, they've told me this. They're very expensive, and two, nobody reads them. Why would we spend millions of dollars to prove that this stuff works for kids if nobody even reads it? We're not, we have a fiduciary responsibility to our shareholders. We can't just waste millions of dollars. Okay, well then maybe the state should do it. But our kids shouldn't be guinea pigs. We should know the stuff works before you put it in front of our child and give it to teachers. Like, that would be part of the second step. The third thing is, and this may be a little bit controversial, but whatever. So in Mississippi, they have a third grade gate. In other words, you're not going to pass third grade if you're not reading at a very basic level. Now, there are people that say this is a racist policy. They say it's very controversial. But having talked with the leaders, the architects of that initiative, first of all, they did it and it worked. They actually retain fewer kids now than they used to. See, and everyone's up in arms. Oh, this is racist, or this is whatever. All the drama and the noise. What people don't realize is that policy was about the kids, but it really wasn't about the kids. It was about the adults. You have to make it, at some point, you have to cut let me just say it. I'm sorry if you're listening. You have to cut the crap.
Yeah.
You got to cut the crap. At some point, you have to stop it where it is and say, enough. Enough is enough. Because really what that policy did was it forces the adults to move differently. Right? So if I know that in third grade, we're not just going to pass kids along and social promotion. If I know that this is actually on the books, guess what? All of a sudden, meetings that should be held get held. All of a sudden, help that should be given, it's given. All of a sudden, observation and feedback and the curriculum and the materials, all of a sudden the adults start moving differently because they don't want to hold that kid back. You can't hold every kid back in third grade. So now the adults start moving differently. So the second step would be also making sure that we cut this game, this shell game that we play, and say, no, by third grade or second, our kids have to be here. And if they're not, we're going to move heaven and earth to get them the help they need. But we're not just going to keep shuffling kids along until, it's the next teacher's problem or the next. No, they're going to get the help they need here. And we're going to move heaven and earth to make that happen. And we're not going to pass them along. They're going to come right back to you. And there's going to be a plan. So guess what, adults? Figure it out. Wow. So that would be a big part of it. That's not politically popular. People are not going to like that. But I'm just telling you what worked over there. y'all might not like Mississippi, y'all
But
might not
that's
like
working?
Alabama, but it's working. It's working.
Good.
And they're retaining
Good.
fewer kids now than they did before. It's because they stopped the musical chairs and the shell game and all that type of stuff. They said, no, we're going to hold a standard. We're going to give all kids the help they need to meet that standard. That would be the next step.
I'm so happy to hear that that's actually working. It is controversial, absolutely,
Very
but I'm happy to hear that it's working. And honestly, my son he's actually a gifted child, but he has ADHD to the extent that he just didn't perform, and he kept being pushed along. And we were saying he got to his senior year and he was struggling to get all of his work done. We're like, why are we doing all of this? Yeah. He's not performing where he needs to be. Maturity wise, he wasn't where he needed to be. Why are we doing all of this? Acting like he's ready to graduate when obviously he's not. And hopefully he's not listening to the Stepos episode.
Say it with all the love of a mother. I understand.
Absolutely. My point is, I totally agree with this, that it's a broken system. It was broken for him. It's broken for all of these kids with dyslexia. It's broken for kids with other learning differences. It's broken and it needs to be fixed, and it needs to be fixed early.
What is the impetus or what is the pressure to push him along? So let's say he's in third grade and he's struggling to read a little bit. He's got some issues, ADHD, like he's, attention issues, which by the way, dyslexia and ADHD, oftentimes those go together. Those comorbidities a lot of times. But let's say he's struggling in third grade to read, and what's the pressure? Why is there this pressure to pass him on? What is that? What is the thinking behind that?
I don't really know. And I think what's interesting is I just read a thread on Facebook today where parents were talking about how there's all this pressure to get their kids into advanced math so that they can be ready to take algebra in ninth grade and all these other things. And I was thinking, and then they said none of the grades matter until they get to freshman year. And I thought, that brings up a good point. Like, why are we pushing them so hard when they're struggling in certain areas? Why not just take a step back, get them caught up to where they need to be? Why does it have to be, okay, now you're supposed to be in third grade, you're in third grade, when you're not on third grade level?
Yeah, this is so huge. I've done a lot of podcasts, so we've never broached this topic before. But, so I've been married twice. My first wife, may she rest in peace, we have a daughter. It came time for her to go to school, and I wanted to retain her. I wanted her to do kindergarten twice. Her mother said no. The pressure was, we got to get her in daycare. We got to work. We got to do all this. Got to pay the bills. So let's just put her in. I was like, why? Let's give her more time. I was a teacher, but my former wife won the day. Right? So we put her in. Now she's now Dr. Weaver. She's doing great. No issues. Wonderful. So I'm remarried, but I said to myself, I'm not losing that argument again. Like this I got 2 new kids. Now I'm not losing this to, not this time. So with the second go around, we had both our kids did preschool, and they did a private kindergarten, and they did kindergarten in public school. So we held them back that way, and they were ready. Like they could read. I taught them to read and all that stuff. But the conversation with my wife was, because she wanted to get them in school just like and I was like, well, would you rather have an extra year to be a kid, or a year to be an adult? Right. Like just from a human standpoint, like life is pretty good when you're 5. You know what I'm saying? Life, like you can rush them to pay bills if you want to, but you're not really losing very much. So we have to get out of this mindset of, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world if we hold a kid back. Come on, man. They're 5, 6. And even if they're in the third grade, like, yes, they'll miss their kids, their friends, and they may have to change schools if you're really worried about that. But the opportunity to give them more time to resolve some of these issues can change the trajectory of their life. Now, my son, he's a great student. He did wonderfully, and it didn't really matter. He's one of the older kids in his class, fine. But it allowed him, there was less social pressures on him because he was a little older. So he was one of the kids who knew more. He was a little bit taller. Great, wonderful. My daughter, who is dyslexic, my youngest daughter, if we had not made the decision to hold her back, heaven only knows what would have happened. Heaven only knows. It took us forever to figure out one anyway. If we didn't have that extra year, because she knew how to read, and that's what sometimes people they think kids with this can't read. That's not necessarily the case.
That's right.
Right.
oftentimes they learn to read. It's just a grind. It's just it's tough, the processing and all. So for her, she at least had some time to establish a good foundation. Went to school and had to deal with the nonsense. But if she didn't have that time, I don't even want to think about what could have happened. So we have to start looking at kids and time and giving them the opportunities they need to grow and acquire the skills they need from a kid standpoint and from a long-term perspective, and not from an ego standpoint or feeling like it's a shameful thing. No. If there's third grade gate and your kid can't read or not read proficiently or base level, hey, come on now. We're thinking long-term. No one's ever asked that before. I'm glad that you guys brought that up. I really am.
It's awesome.
Well, great.
And I was thinking because I have 3 kids, but they're all chronological adults, but they're kids. And when my daughter was in middle school, I want to say it was 7th grade year, I had to go to a special meeting because they said, your daughter needs to know what she's going to do when she goes to college. I was like, are we in 7th grade? And I'm like, well, okay, why? And it was a big parent meeting because they had to decide what track she was going to study on at the middle school and then later high school. And I was going,
wow.
Well, wouldn't it be kind of the same, I would think? I mean, she needs to get her math. She needs to get her English. I'm oversimplifying this. Part of me thought, okay, maybe she should be thinking this. And then the other part of me was thinking, but she's 7th grade. She's got a long time to make up her mind as to what she wants to do when she's an adult, Yeah. And I think we push our kids sometimes and don't give them the time that they need to make some of these decisions.
Yeah. I know there are some parents and educators who believe that you should get your kids off to a good start. I have no problem with that. I have that mindset too. And I was like, listen, I have kids, they're little black kids. I got to make sure when they go into school, they know how to read. Like, that was my thing. I didn't want to I'm not against the mindset of preparing kids. If you want to teach your kids to read early, go for it. Like, whatever your demographics are, whatever languages you speak, like, fine, have at it. But what I do know is kids ought to be able to be kids.
Right.
And we can't have a system that's pressuring them so much that they never actually, like, I'll give you an example. And this is what people I don't think consider when it's time to talk about dyslexia and other learning differences. Sometimes schools will say, okay, well, we'll just give you an after school program, or we'll give you an extra class of this or that. Okay, well, so now the kid suffers through school from 8 to 3. Now all of a sudden you've got an extra after school program of more stuff that they can't stand. So now it's 3 to 4:30. So that means all day they hate it. Mm-hmm. That means they're not playing soccer, they're not playing football, they're not playing cheerleading, they're not doing it. They have a right to be kids.
Right.
And to have friends and to do things. And we wonder sometimes why kids hate school. So I would advise parents on this wise to say, you have to make sure your kid has something to hold on to. If they're struggling with dyslexia or something else, that can't be their whole world. Thank God my daughter played softball. Like, she loves softball. She's good at it. She's been playing it and all this stuff and traveled and all. If it wasn't for that, like, she might have just tapped out of school a long time ago. You can't let it just be a grind 24/7. And then when they get home, all the conversations about their homework and what they are and aren't doing, and why can't you be more like your sister, and da-da-da-da-da, and all. Like, at some point, kids just say enough is enough. You have to make sure they're involved in something. I don't care whether it's scouts or your church, something. They got to do something besides school that they actually like. Otherwise, and we forget that because we're so focused on the academics, rightfully so, but that's why it's so important to get the tier 1 stuff, the in-school stuff right. So that after school, man, come on, man. Can I go jump rope? Can I go to the Boys and Girls Club? Can I go camp? Can I do something?
Yeah.
There has to be space for them to cultivate other interests as well. And that's part
and
of.
not do 5 hours of homework.
That's
right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, it was bad. I remember, and I'm an educator, and I could not wait for my kids to be done with school. Be done with their formal education. That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
The last 2 especially.
Yeah. So as parents who are advocates, just make sure that, in addition of being fierce and advocating for the kids, you have to also fiercely protect their opportunities to be kids.
Yeah.
And if that means you have to delay things for a little bit and hold them back a year when they're really small, okay, fine. Give them extra year to be a kid. That's no skin off your back or off the kid's back. You forget at 7 years old, like you're pretty much roll with anything. So, and it's very early to do that than later. The earlier, the better. Giving kids a gift of time.
Okay, so I have a question for you about, I know you've been a seasoned educator for years. What is your most proverbial rags to riches story regarding a student with dyslexia?
I won't say rags to riches. I'll say the one that inspires me the most.
Okay.
I had a student, let's just say her name started with the letter A. And I had her in 5th grade, and her reputation was she was a fighter. She wouldn't put up with any guff from the boys or the girls. And she lived up to that reputation. I had a habit of, I used to always go to the principal and I said, give me your 5 students that nobody wants to deal with. I want those. Once you know how to teach a kid to read, then those kids are usually your best students because that's all they need, usually. So I didn't know. We worked together. We worked on her reading. She learned, she grew, she stopped fighting so much. And about 4 years ago on Facebook, she posted this thing where she said, I just want to thank my 5th grade teacher, Mr. Weaver. He doesn't know this, but I have dyslexia. And now I'm a teacher. I teach 5th grade like my 5th grade teacher. And I'm loving it. And I'm seeing kids like me there all the time. And I love this job. And thank you, Mr. Weaver, for inspiring me. And listen, like they say, be still my heart. Yeah, man. I just, that's all she needed. She just you just never know what kids are going to do. You just don't know all the potential they have and how they're going to move. And you just don't know. You got to give them a chance. So for me, that was one that really hit home because I didn't know she was dyslexic. I was just teaching the way that all kids need. Right. But to hear her tell it, and that was a game changer for her. And now she's doing her thing and a teacher. And I couldn't be happier, prouder, or whatever you want to say. So yeah, that's my story.
That's heartwarming.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you say rags to riches, teachers don't make a lot of money. You're not doing it for so it's not rich, but there's something else to be said. Poverty isn't always about money, and neither is wealth. I know people who have a lot of money and I wouldn't trade lives with them. You couldn't pay me to because they're miserable. Conversely, I know people, I remember one time I was teaching and I was going to work and there are a lot of homeless people in California. And there's this family that, a couple that was under the bridge. They were hugged up. They're always in there. They're laughing, they're talking. And I sat there thinking, here they are homeless, living under a bridge. And this couple, like I know people who have lots of money who you never see them smile at each other. Mm-hmm. Never. So wealth isn't all about money. So to me, student A is living a dream, and I'm so proud of her. I really am. Really am.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that story.
Yeah.
My babies.
I know, right? I mean, and you see them out in public as adults with their own kids, and you're going,
yeah.
I still have this image of you as a 3rd grader in my head. You're
supposed
to be 30-something years old.
Yeah. Yeah. And when she posted her picture, she wore old school teacher outfit, big frilly dress, mother hen type dress. I was like, well, you go head on, own it, girl, teach those babies, So, but you just never know. You just never know what a kid's going to do. You just got to give them the wings they need to go and reach those goals. So, yeah. Thanks for asking that question. I really appreciate it.
So, how do you perceive in school system? I know what I've seen, but how girls and boys are treated differently, or even children of color are treated differently from each other. How do we? Gosh, I don't even know. What have you seen? What's your thoughts on that?
Great question. So part of what's so pernicious about that wait to fail model is we're going to wait until you're unmanageable. Mm-hmm. We're going to wait until we have to deal with you. Girls, and every girl is different. You never know. However, for girls, what they'll say is if she's struggling, they'll say, well, she's just so nice. She's just so sweet. Just give her more time. This is how it was with my daughter. Just give her more time. Everyone loves Margot. Oh, she's such a nice child. Like she's the helper and all this stuff, right? Whereas, and so it just goes on and on and on, and there's no emergency. Whereas boys, oftentimes, not always, like I say, it's not always the case, but oftentimes the boy will be the one who will act out in a way that you have to deal with. I wish my daughter had been a chair flipper, right? Because if she had been a chair flipper, then, yeah, she'll get sent to the office. Yeah, she'll get in trouble, but we got to figure this out because we can't just have this little girl out here flipping chairs, right?
Right.
Boys oftentimes force the issue because of behavior. So that's a big difference in how things are handled is that who creates more of an emergency or a crisis. Girls oftentimes, you have to wait longer to deal with it because it doesn't present the same. And we have socialized our girls to be more deferential and to not cause problems and to just be quiet, stay in your, like all that. It shows up in schools and in kind of a stir they call. Now, you always going to have those girls who will, cuss you out and do this. Like, fine, there's that group. But usually they're a little bit more demure than that. And so our system doesn't respond to them the same way they do to boys.
Yeah.
So parents of daughters, you have to be even more vigilant. You can't wait until your child is eating lunch in the bathroom by herself crying because she's not getting what she needs. You can't wait until your child, like those of us with daughters, by the time the system realizes we have an emergency here, she has gone through so much that they will never even recognize because she's dealing with it on the inside, and the social emotional impact of it is withering. So that's the first thing. Now, in terms of race, and I would put class in here too, because I've done some work in Appalachia, and it's oftentimes it goes by class as well. It's the expectations. It's what George Bush said years ago: the soft bigotry of low expectations. What do we expect for different groups of children? So let's say you come from a family that doesn't have much money, or let's say you have a sibling who struggled. People can say, yeah, well, what can you expect? They may not say it outwardly, but the expectation, the alarm bell doesn't ring when that child doesn't excel, or when they're not reading, or things aren't well. Well, what can you expect? Their family's got some issues, and that family, and I had their sibling years ago, and all that stuff comes into play. So our expectations for different children, unfortunately, we're human beings, varies, and that's why it's important for the system to have guardrails in place. That's why you screen kids early, to take that outside of the realm of, I think something might be wrong, or I perceive something might be wrong, or based on my experience. No. We're screening you because it's Tuesday. Okay. And in first grade on Tuesday, this is what we do at this point in the school year. It's not because I think you're this or not that, or your race, or your class, or your language, your economics, or what your parents did, and who's alcoholic. None of that. It's Tuesday. We're going to screen. So that's where policy comes into place, district policy and state policy, to say there are some guardrails up so that we're going to serve all kids, and we're going to make sure that no one's falling through the cracks based on biases of whatever kind. The other thing I'll say on this, and then I'll turn this loose, is what the research says is there are about 5% of kids who are going to read regardless. You really don't have to do anything. Just don't mess them up. Like they're okay. Then you got another 30% or so of kids who are going to read in school. Just teach them something. It could be Montessori, whole language, balanced literacy, phonics, like whatever. Just be consistent, do it well. They'll learn to read. They'll pick it up pretty effortlessly. The rest, they need it structured. Okay, so that's about 35% or 40% that they're going to be okay. Well, that's about 95% of our teachers come from those two groups. Mm-hmm. So it's difficult for them to perceive what the majority of kids need, because for them, they acquired literacy pretty readily. Right? Not realizing the actual majority of the population, the kids in their classrooms, they need it taught in a structured way, systematic, explicit, direct, with all the pieces, the oral language development, the phonics, the phonemic awareness, the vocabulary, the comprehension, the fluency, all that. They need it. And they need it regularly. They need fully prepared teachers consistently every day. And so from a policy standpoint, just from a justice standpoint, we have to make sure that we're targeting all our kids and not just the ones that are in that 30 to 35% group or 40% group, male, female, black, white, second language, first language, third language, fifth language, whatever, they have a right to read. So those are some of the difference when it comes to race, class, gender, etc. We got to remove our learner's bias. And those of us who are building these systems, if we learn to read easily, we build systems that work for us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's wrong with those kids? Like, we're teaching the stuff. Like, what's the problem? Oh, friend, you don't realize that you're that 5%. You're that group that it was, so you don't perceive. It's like humidity. I'm in California, you're in Texas. When I go to Texas and I'm really like, that humidity, but if you're there, you don't perceive it because you're used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Well, it's the same thing with reading. Those people who are in charge of the system, it's difficult for them to perceive what the majority of kids need because they didn't learn to read like that. They're that 5% group. And so their learner's bias shows up in the curriculum they pick, how they train people, the professors, the way they teach their methods classes, the policies that we enact. It takes people who either have a child with a learning difference or they have dyslexia themselves or something to say, oh, wait a second, that's not going to work for my child. That policy is not going to work. That curriculum is not. You have to be more vocal because the other folks who are running the show, they just don't get it. With the best of intentions, they just don't get it. So those are some of the things you have to watch out for in terms of inequities, because it does end up impacting the kids who need it done explicitly, systematically, and directly.
I think
Thank
we
you.
were fortunate to have Tyncey Miller here
Yeah.
in Texas for a good portion of time. She was on the State
Mhm.
Board of Education, and she had a child with dyslexia, and she was a big
Again, when it's important to you,
Right,
those are
right.
the people
Yeah.
that you
She
want in
pushed for it.
place. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's interesting. I would have loved to have heard her. Please send me the link to that. I would love to hear her perspective on it, because policymakers and executives who have that background, they tend to move differently.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
That's fascinating to me. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
Mhm.
Huh. Good for her.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Um,
What else you got?
good Lord, I feel like I'd sit here and just let you freeform with your thoughts.
Yeah,
I could
we
just
covered
listen
a
to
lot
it.
of topics.
Well, what you're saying is better than our topics.
Well, don't let me get off script. If you got a question you want to ask, you go ahead. Don't let me dictate the conversation.
Now, a word from our newest sponsor. Established in 1926, the Gow School is the first school in the nation created for students with dyslexia and other language-based learning differences.
Today, GOW is a premier boarding and day school for students in grades 5 through postgraduate.
Located 30 minutes from Buffalo, New York, Gow's campus features 7 dormitories, classrooms, an indoor athletic center, sports fields, theater and art studios, a robotics lab, and more.
To find out more about this nurturing and supportive academic environment, please visit www.gow.org or call 716-652-3450. Let's return to the show. Well, I actually do have a question. I had another speaker who had said that, since COVID, a lot of our students are becoming less self-reliant in taking command of their learning. And I see it rebounding back, but I was wondering, what were your thoughts on that? They're not taking control of their own learning, less self-reliant and more dependent on others is basically the wording I had.
Since COVID.
Yeah. I know we don't see our kids showing up for school near like we used to.
Yeah,
we're
right.
closing campuses left and right out here in Texas because our kids really haven't shown back up.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Why do you think they're not showing back up?
Couple of things. Well, because public ed, 1. 2, we have charters where they can make that choice and go to the charter school. 3, a lot of parents are deciding to homeschool their kids, or 4, they just never came back. If they didn't do those first 3, I don't know what happened to them. I don't know where they are. But I was in a district before I retired where we had some low income kids, and they took the laptop and didn't come back, because we did the distance learning, and you just going, what happened?
Oh my God. Oh, thanks for the free computer. I'm out.
Right. Oh God, out of here.
Well, listen, let me tell you that's all across the country. Districts across the country are struggling with attendance, and most of the time they determine the money that they get from the state based on attendance. And so the pressure that's caused, Oakland's about $100 million in debt. So is San Francisco. It's like all across the country, because kids aren't, where are the kids? They exist, they're here. But I would agree with you in that I think COVID was a wake-up call. Parents saw their kid, at the computer doing the stay-at-home work or whatever, and they were stunned. And frankly, after kindergarten, you have to go to school. It's the law. So parents are balancing this. It's a mandate. I have to send my kid to school, but at the same time, I don't know what they're talking about. That doesn't even make sense to me. And if my kid's not happy, if my kid goes to school and comes back with more problems than they started with, at some point in time, parents have to make choices. I don't begrudge any parent from exercising that option.
Right.
And I'm not going to get into the whole charter versus district thing. I don't care. I just want kids to learn to read.
Right.
Like whatever. Right. And so it is an issue that parents are dealing with all across the country, and systems are struggling to adapt. And they're thinking, well, it's because we need better facilities, or we need a better sports program. We need this, we need that. Or we need a social emotional program, or they come up with all kinds of reasons, not realizing the kid does not like school.
Yeah.
It's not fun for them. They're miserable. And so if I have a choice to homeschool my child, I can at least make sure that at the end of the day, my kid's not pulling their hair out. I can at least make sure that at the end of the day, my kid's not an emotional wreck. And I can't do any worse. They can't, they're struggling to read. I can't do any worse than that. And actually, I might get, 100 Easy Lessons to Teach Your Child to Read book, or the Direct Instruction book from Engelman, or some other, book like that. And I can teach this. It's got instructions, 100 steps. I can do it. And people are just making those choices. So no, I don't begrudge them at all. I know it's a strain on public systems. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it, but that's not my first concern. I know for some, I get it. They're institutionalists. They want the institution of public education to be strong. Fine. I have no problem with that, but I'm unapologetically kid first. So what's best for kids? And if what's best for kids is for, children and families to make decisions elsewhere until we get our acts together in the public system, fine. Like what we have to do to save our kids. That's just the bottom line of it. So I was curious to hear your perspective on that, because I know there's a lot of, and politics gets involved in it too and all that, but I'm not a politician. I don't have to say stuff to just make people feel good. My thing is what's best for kids. Yeah. And what kind of parent would we be to send our child to a school that's not serving them well?
Right. And in place where they're just, I know that like my child, she chose her senior year. They had the option of coming back or staying. She goes, oh, I'm happier at home. She did well, she did well with her virtual classes. It was her senior year. I was like, really? Are you sure you don't want to go in? No, she was much happier. Right, doesn't it? I thought so too.
Says a lot. Yeah, kids are honest with you. If we listen to them, they're very, very honest, both in terms of what they say, but also what they do. I tell people all the time that behavior is feedback. You're watching how a kid behaves, that's telling you something. How they behave in class, how they are with their peer group and all that. That's feedback. That's telling us a lot. If we just watch them and pay attention to them, we can learn a lot about what they need and how they're responding to what's going on in their lives.
Do you think there's any saving public school? With the way things are looking right now, it's not looking too good, but...
So that's a great question. Well, first, let me ask you, what do you think? Do you think they're a saving? Because I have an answer, but I want to hear what you think first.
You keep doing this to us.
Hey, want to hear it.
I think that there's no saving public school until public school starts listening to educators and to parents.
Interesting. And listening to them in terms of what they need or what they want, or what do you mean?
Both. Meaning So if parents are concerned about their children getting the services similar to what we provide with dyslexia interventions, or they're concerned about their IEP goals not being met, or the group sizing too big, or their classroom sizes being too big, or the curriculum not meeting their child's needs, if those are concerns that they have and the school district doesn't listen, or if the school board meetings are going as crazily as they are in my district right now.
Oh, yeah, they are.
The school board isn't listening. The school board is doing stuff behind closed doors, supposedly. I don't see how that's going to change anything, how things are going to get better. So those are some concerns I have. So they're not listening to the parents. And then as far as the teachers, I don't think the teachers are really receiving a lot of ability to give feedback on what works and what doesn't work in the classroom.
And to back up what you're saying, I just had a coordinator from another district because she wanted this additional training for her teachers. And so she had gone before the board and she goes, they said we didn't have the money to do this. And I was like, they want the in-service, they want the training, they want the knowledge, but they're saying, no, we can't do it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will say this. I tend to agree with you all. I think public education has to save itself. Like, you save our kids, but you better save yourself, because people are making choices. And you can see by the attendance figures all around the country, people are opting out. And you can wail against charter schools all you want to, or private schools. People with the means and the knowledge are not going to send their kids to schools where they don't think their kids are being served. That's just common sense, And parents, there was a national parent survey years ago of about 35,000 parents, where they asked them what their priorities were for the school. And the number one priority was keep them safe. Safety was number one, which makes sense. I send my kid to school. I want my kid to come back safe. I don't want to be on the news. Okay.
Right.
And the second thing was they need to learn how to read. Then there were some other things after that. And our schools are struggling to keep kids safe, and they're struggling to teach kids how to read. That's not a good formula for lasting success. And safety is not just physical safety, it's also emotional safety. Like, I understand people have different beliefs and ideas about what kids should and shouldn't be exposed to, but there has to be some humility in this. I, as a parent, these are my kids. Yes, you're the teacher and the principal, and I know you love them. I appreciate you. I applaud you, but these are my children. I have a right as a parent. I may not want my kid exposed to everything that you're comfortable exposed. Like, I just recognize my rights as a parent, please.
Right. And
focus on keeping them safe and teaching them how to read. Public education's got to be clear about what they're there for. You're not there to ideologically spin my kid left or right. You're not there to some political agenda. You can have whatever you believe, but when my kid shows up, keep them safe, teach them how to read. Understand, I'm the parent. There's this controversy that I've unfortunately kind of stepped into a little bit online, but whatever, I don't care. It is what it is. There is a strain of thought within the education world that we mentioned before. Relationships are everything, right? You have to build relationships to be able to teach kids and everything. Right. And, I understand that, but look, man, yes and no. Like, I want you to get along with my child. I want you to. Like, I want you to be able to teach them and have them listen to all that. But if my kid is 7, you're not going to have a relationship with that child. I hope not. And frankly, I don't want my 7-year-old getting used to a manipulative relationship where the only reason I'm engaging with you is because I want you to do stuff, because I want you to follow my instructions, because I want you to sit down, then I'm going to be nice to you. I don't want my daughter getting used to that kind of transactional relationship anyway. Just teach. That's all it is. And frankly, as a parent of a teenager, I got news for you. You do not have a relationship with my child. I have gone to back to school night, and like I said, my son was a very good student. He really didn't need us. Like, he was fine. But I went because I need to look the teacher in the eye and say, I am the father. If you need to contact my son, here's my phone number. Contact me, right? And I know teachers who have great boundaries and who are professional, they have no problem with that. And they may still end up engaging with the child, and we may get along great. We might invite you over for dinner. Who knows? But I need you to understand, I'm the parent. You are a great teammate of ours, but I need you to understand your lane. So
Yeah.
I think public education has gotten some things confused, and it is now popular to say you can't even teach without having great relationships with kids. Man, she's 7. Turn to page 1. That's the relationship we have. And turn to page 1. And I have your mother, father, grandparents on speed dial as needed, but we're going to get this work done, and I'm going to be your partner. Like, it just, public education has got to understand its lane and its role, and that parents are giving you their most precious resource. And keep them safe, teach them how to read, and help prepare them for college and career. That's what we need you to do. And there'll be great relationships that come from that, especially with the parents. But you got to keep the main thing the main thing.
I totally
And
agree.
if they can't figure that out, then you know what? If you can't figure that out, then you shouldn't be around our kids. Period. Like if that's an issue for you, great, mature, responsible teachers have no problem with that. None.
Yeah.
None. But if you do have issues with that, I got other questions for you.
Yeah. Exactly.
For sure.
Wow. I like it. No, my kids always attended the school I taught at elementary. They knew that if they, and let me just say, they were no angels, but if the teacher had to walk them down to my classroom,
Yes.
I wasn't going to do anything at school. It'd be at the house later on.
Oh my God!
It was that fear of waiting for what's going to happen.
That's right. When we get home, that's right. Oh my goodness! Absolutely, that is too funny.
Well, I think we're getting ready to kind of wrap it up a little bit, but you're very, oh my gosh, well versed. And I think our listeners would love to hear some of the things that you would recommend to read or to watch or to articles or anything like that. What are some of your recommendations?
Sure, a few things. Let's see. In terms of reading, I would say his name it's a funny name, Stanislaw Delane.
Yes.
I know that's good. Yeah, well, he's got some really good stuff that I would read. If you have the desire to homeschool your kids, I would take a look at, 100 Easy Lessons to get your kid reading. I would look at Rudolph Fleisch's old books, Why Johnny Can't Read, and then 30 years later, Why Johnny Still Can't Read. I'd read that. There's a book called The Marva Collins Way. I would read that. I would go on YouTube and I'd Google the Marva Collins story. There's a movie out, was made with her. I think Cicely Tyson, Morgan Freeman are in that movie. It's an old movie about getting kids to be able to read and do well, and her story as a teacher in Chicago. She wrote a book, there's a movie, and there's lots of YouTube videos about her as well. I know 60 Minutes did a special on Marva Collins, and they tracked her students for years, and they found out how wonderful they did. Kids living in poverty and kids with dyslexia and all kids with all kind of differences, just thriving. So I would read those stories about her because it will help you understand it is possible. It is possible. Like, I know sometimes we can get beaten down and think that our kids can't do it. They can. And her approach to teaching, which is really what the science reading is all about, shows that it is possible. I'd also, in terms of watching, we had the Right to Read film that just came out. Well, it's been out a few years now. That's pretty good. You can take a look at that. And also, there's a movie coming out called Left Behind. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, with the story of some moms in New York whose children are dyslexic. And they're starting a school within the public system that focuses on the needs of dyslexic students. It's really powerful. And I forget my guy's name, my U2 drummer. I forget him. He made the music. Your husband will know.
Say it again.
Larry Mullins Jr. Right. That's right. Larry Mullins Jr. He made the music, the score for that, a couple of songs just for that. I would watch that. It's pretty good. It's just now coming out. It's at film festivals and stuff, but it'll be in theaters, and they can, I guess, Amazon Prime it or whatever. But it's called Left Behind. That's a pretty doggone good story. Those are a few things. Those are a few things. Also, the NAACP has a national resolution, which means it's policy for all the state and local branches on dyslexia, talking about what kids need. That was 2014, but now in 2024, there's an evidence-based instruction policy they came out with. So that's good because it's a sword to fight with. When you go into these board meetings and talking with superintendents or principals, say, hey, listen, this is a civil rights issue. My kid's got something and we need this, that, and the other. And you take a look at this is a civil rights issue. It gives you some standing in many spaces. So those are some things that I would do. There's a lot more that they could do, Amy, but those are some places that I'd start.
Wonderful. It's a wonderful start. And one of the things I have on my
Maybe
business
maybe
page,
you all should write a book. Maybe you all should write a book.
I was talking about that to my husband, Melissa. I was talking
Mm-hmm.
about that. You and I should write a book when we find free time
Really?
one day.
A dyslexia duo book?
Well, sort of,
No,
maybe
I mean,
on methodologies and approaches and things to do with your
yeah.
students.
Cool. I would
Yeah.
like
You've
that.
had a lot of conversations with people. You've had conversations with
We
people all around
have.
the country and talked about what kids need, what they don't, and parents and advocacy and all that. To put it in a book and just say, hey, this is what we've learned, I think would be a very good offering to the public. And people,
Okay.
and make it easy to read, accessible for parents, not just super wonky, but just like relatable, and just say, here are some things like that could be about. I haven't done that. Maybe I will one day, but I think you all, especially with your listenership, I pile in your notes together and say, hey, you know what? We have something we think would be of interest to you. And instead of having to click on all the different things, here it is in one place.
Yeah.
Just think about it. Just consider it.
Okay.
I'd buy it.
Yeah, that was actually something I said to my husband the other day, and then I was like, when? When?
Mr. Weaver could do our forward for us.
There you go. Write our forward for us.
Listen, I would be honored to do it. I've done a few forwards for people who, they do their thing, Dr. So-and-so and this and that. Listen, I'd be happy to. You guys, I mean, when I say I've written forwards for different people who've written books and done great things and all that and participate. I'm trying to get a job done. And so to the degree that I can be helpful, let me know. I want people to have access to the resources they need, and messengers matter.
Yeah.
To have people with real life experiences. Some of these books I see, I'm like, wait, have you ever lived it? Did you have a child that struggled in school? I understand the theory. I understand you've studied this and done. I get that. And I'm not disrespecting your research, Professor. However, if you haven't had a child that struggled to do this thing and had to bear the scars of that journey, man,
Right.
It's only so much you can tell me. I mean, I hate to be a snob about it, but I want to hear from some parents who've had to, travel that road. So I would encourage you to think about it. I'm sure your listeners would appreciate it as well. In an easy to understand way, conversing in style the same way you do this, I think it'd be a benefit to the sector.
Well,
I'd be
thank
happy
you.
to do this.
I thank you. Thank you for all of that. I mean, my goodness, it's just
Real.
it's very
Very moving. I
complimentary.
can't.
Yeah.
Like I'm getting teary eyed over here just thinking about.
Well,
all the things.
sometimes we don't realize where we stand in the field and what we mean to others. I've had, whether it's a student, a colleague, a friend, or whatever, they'll say, well, you really don't realize what you meant to me, or you really don't know. I got inspiration from your journey. And I think a podcast is great. Movies are great, but different platforms and different mediums, you have to get the message out. So I've done the movie thing before. We did the one and the other one, Left Behind. I've done plenty of podcasts. They're fun for me. I don't mind doing them. For example, I can go to a professor and say, hey, have you seen this book? Maybe when you're teaching your methods classes, you might want to have your students read this. Read chapter 3 in this book from a parent's perspective. You know what I mean? So you just never know where that message can go, but it has to come from people, in my view, that actually have lived it before, and they have children who've lived it before. It would make
honestly, you sitting here talking to us while we were going through all of our interview, I was thinking, gosh, this needs to be a parent education piece.
Workshop.
Teachers need to play this with their parents who have dyslexia or parents who have any kind of other learning struggles. They need to hear what you have to say and how we can help kids from the ground up.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it depends on the audience and what they want. But when you write a book, you get to tell your story.
Yeah.
And people will connect with it as they will. I was in a meeting in San Francisco. I was speaking to this group in San Francisco, and I put up pictures of dyslexic people on my slides. I had Steve Jobs, who founded Apple, because he's from this area. I had Joe Montana. He's a quarterback for the 49ers. This is old. But it's San Francisco 49ers. So they're like, oh, Joe Montana's like, yeah, he was dyslexic. Like, oh, they had Magic Johnson, who, basketball player in LA, or Gary Payton Jr. here in the Bay Area. They're dyslexic. They're like, yes, they're all around you. The issue is not all our kids are 6'9" and can shoot the ball or can run a 4.40. Yeah. Now, most of them are like regular kids, male and female, right? Mm-hmm. But they need people who are informed and who are advocates and who will stand up for them in the boardroom, in the classroom, in the state house, And then also there's room for people to inform the public via a book, a podcast, a radio spot, or whatever. So just think about it, and if you want to think through some concepts or ideas or whatever, I'm happy to do it. You guys are a force. And I hope that you appreciate the opportunity that you have to make a difference, not just how you're doing now, but what you could do if you're able to get the word out even more through different mediums. So not to put any pressure on you, but I think you have a story to tell. You probably don't realize this stuff to read your own press clippings, but do that.
That's very nice. And well, Melissa, you and I have some talking to do, it sounds like.
Yes, we do.
There you go. Okay. That's what I want to hear.
Okay, Melissa, so ask your question.
I have my magic question that I ask at the end of every podcast. My magic question is, if you had one wish you could grant to our students, what would it be and why?
Every student needs a champion. Every student needs a champion. Like I would love if you had a great curriculum. I would love if you had that and this and that and all the rest. But every student, every child needs at least one person who will just go to bat for them. They need somebody to say, not on my watch. Every child needs somebody. It could be a grandparent. It could be a mom, a dad, an uncle, a coach. I feel for the kids who just don't have anyone. We're so busy with the day-to-day grind of life that there's nobody to fight the battles. Nobody is going to go to the meeting, and nobody's going to talk to the teacher, or nobody's going to, no one wants to offend people, but every kid needs somebody that's going to put them first. So if I had a magic wand, every kid would at least have one champion in their life who's willing to put them first above whatever other pressures and dynamics and whatever. There was this guy in Atlanta, and I was in some theater doing a screening, and so it was packed with parents and everything. This guy in the back raised his hand and said, "Yeah, I'm working 2 jobs and I got this going on and and I'm trying my best, and my daughter's this, and his daughter's dyslexic, and these things are expensive. The testing is expensive, and I don't know what to do." I was like, "Man, get a 3rd job. If you're her champion, figure it out. I'm not going to make it easier for you. I wish it was easier, but if you're her person, figure it out. Pass the hat around the family, keep it legal. If you're her person, she is counting on you to figure this out." And I told him that. I was like, listen, man, I feel for you. I've been there before, but if the question is, are you her champion or not? And if you are, don't come with the woe was me stuff. I don't want to hear that. I know it's tough, but if you're her champion, you will figure it out. And so for every child, I would just hope to have somebody in their life who just won't let them go. Somebody who's just going to put them first and be their champion, in ways seen and unseen. So that would be my one wish. What did you call it? What kind of
magic wand? It's her magic question. Yeah.
Magic. That's the answer to the magic question for every child.
Well, that is heartfelt, and I completely agree with you. I totally would want that for my students, for anybody too. I just want that for everybody that struggles.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's the grandparent that has to do that role.
Oh yeah. Sometimes it's a coach. Sometimes it's an aunt or an uncle or a big sister or a big brother.
Yes.
A big sister, a big brother. But it's just somebody who says, "I got you. I got you." And I know it's tough, I'm not going to let you circle the drain. Man, they're going to have to get through me to get to you. And you might not be popular. They might tease you, mama bear, or, when you come to the school, okay, here he comes.
Oh no, here she is.
Loudspeaker, here they come. You know how it is, fine, let it be. But I'm here for my child. I'm not here to start trouble. It's good trouble. It's not even about you guys. I'm just here to advocate for my child. And I want us to be on the same page, and I want to work with you. It's like Abraham Lincoln said, hard war, easy peace. I'll be your best friend, easy peace. Like we can, but hey, if it's on, it's on. Because I know what side I'm on. It's my kid's side. So that's what I would hope for every child.
Beautiful.
Absolutely. I love it. Love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, Kareem, thank you. I was going to be all formal and say Mr. Weaver. Thank you so much for doing this, for giving up so much of your time to be with us today. And thank you so much.
I feel like we got way more than we even realized we were going to
we had no idea. We had no idea.
We just poured your heart and soul into this.
The pleasure has been all mine. I appreciate it. I looked at my calendar and I said, oh, that sounds like fun. That sounds like fun. So I'm happy to do this. It's fun for me. And I love the way you all work together. And you got the peanut gallery in there. You got your husband in the back chiming in every now and then.
He's actually our producer / editor. So he'll
Is that right? Man, he's right on point. You give him a microphone. He's right there.
He's actually at work right now too. So he's listening and he's working.
Oh
at
my
the same
God.
time.
Anyway, but I appreciate the conversation. You guys were expansive, but also personable. And you gave me a chance to express some things that I probably usually don't express. So thank you for that and being open to a real, authentic conversation about what our kids need.
Thank you.
We're grateful for it. And we can tell that you love what you do and you're as passionate about what you do as we are. And we just love that we have this opportunity to talk with you
and to
learn
connect. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And to connect. I've heard about you for so many years. And one of my ladies that I've been training to therapy level, she's like, oh, I follow Kareem Weaver. And if you could get him on the podcast, I'm like, well, I'll try, man. He's a big name. I don't know.
It's all good. Listen, we're a small organization. We have a website. People can go on and look at it if they want to, but we're a really small shop. We work with districts and states and try to be supportive as we can, whether it's helping them pick curriculum, whether it's helping them create a coaching framework, whether it's making a literacy plan or think through policies. We do all that stuff. And at the same time, you can never forget that it's about kids and how can we contribute both to win hearts and minds, which is what this is for, but then also just bring awareness so that we can get our kids what they need. So I'm happy to do this, and I'm thankful for the invitation.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thankful for you. So thank you. And we'll be back in touch when the show goes live. We will reach back out to you and let you know when we're publishing it so you can share it on your sites as well.
Thank you. We will definitely do that. And I think I gave you the email to our communications manager, Lindsay, and you could just send it to me, CC her, and so that she can upload it and all the rest and post it as well. So thank you. Keep up the good work.
The Dyslexia Duo podcast hosts are Amy Rodenroth,
Melissa Dean.
Our producer is Greg Rodenroth.
You can find us on Facebook at The Dyslexia Duo.
Email us any questions or comments at thedyslexiaduo@gmail.com.
Awareness is so important. Share this podcast with your friends,
family,
and teachers.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye.